Hello and welcome everyone to this new episode of Forbes Global Insights on our digital TV channel F15 by Forbes DACH. My name is Klaus. I'm the editor-in-chief of the German-speaking edition of Forbes, and in this format I meet the editors and editors-in-chief of the local language editions of Forbes. We have 35 editions across the globe, Argentina to Indonesia, South Africa to Finland, and we want to see what's going on in these countries, how the economy is doing faced with this coronavirus crisis, and also how the entrepreneurs are finding solutions. And last but not least, what the media industry and Forbes in specific in this country is doing. Today, we have our neighbor here, Juraj Porubský, who's the editor-in-chief of Forbes in Slovakia, based in Bratislava, not far from where we are in Vienna. Slovakia has seen, let's say, rather mild consequences of the coronavirus crisis. There have only been about, I think, 25 deaths. But still, I mean, Slovakia is part of the European Union and it's part of the European economy, so they are not completely protected of economic consequences. So I'm excited to hear how the country has been doing and how the media industry especially has been doing in Slovakia as well. Juraj, thanks so much for joining us and thanks for taking the time.
Hi, Klaus. Hi, everybody. Thanks for inviting me. First of all, I must say that Vienna wasn't really that far from Bratislava for the last 30 years for me. This is completely different experience because, you know, sometimes we just wake up on Saturday morning and we decide we're gonna go to Vienna for breakfast. And it's so easy for us, you know, you jump into a car and you go there. It's 40-minute drive. It's really easy thing. And now it's closed. So this is really a new thing for everybody here in Bratislava. And I must say another thing very similar to this one is Czechoslovakia, because this was really the first time that Czechoslovakia really has split into separate countries. You were not able to travel, and there were like Czech Republic and Slovakia and borders and all these things. So it reminded me the times before the fall of the communism in many ways. So it is really interesting. The other thing, we didn't have really the healthcare crisis here in Slovakia. As you mentioned, we have like 1,500 positive cases for the whole country, 5.5 million people, 28 deaths. So it wasn't really an issue how to deal with the healthcare crisis. But the good thing was we went into a full lockdown very early in the March. So we really closed the cities. Everybody was actually staying at home. We had the face mask. All the non-essential businesses were closed, all the schools, the kindergartens, and so on. So it was really a strange feeling. And I must say that as the crisis is very different for different parts of people. Once you are all alone and living at home, it's completely different experience compared to somebody as us who are small children. So this is completely different thing you have to deal with, even if you want to work from home and so on. So, and now it's getting back to the new normal. And since Monday, we opened the schools for the younger children. We opened the schools for the kindergarten. So finally, we can really get back to work. And even in the city, you can see people on the cafes drinking beer and everything. So it's completely different right now with the summer. So I must say it's getting to a sort of normal life right now.
You already mentioned that compared to other European countries, the damages or the problems that the healthcare system had were mild, but still, I mean, how was the impact for the Slovakian economy as a total? I mean, how much was it impacted also because of the standstill that all of Europe went under, and the Czech Republic, as you said, that which is a big trade partner? How was this for the economy?
Well, we expect that the recession will be maybe in double digits for the year. So it's really severe, I must say. And it's really hard to predict what the real situation will be. because we believe that the first quarter and second quarter will be very bad with the GDP numbers. We don't expect to have that sort of unemployment that we can see in the US or something like that. This is not going to happen here. And we will see in the third, fourth, and the fourth quarter of the year how strong the rebound will be. But still, we believe that the recession for the year will be somewhere close to 9% minus, or 10% maybe, for the whole economy. Of course, there are different sectors of the economy. The worst hit could be like the restaurants and cafes and all these sort of services that were really closed, and we're gonna see whether the people will come back or not. On the other hand, I mean, the automotive industry, that's very important for the country, went into sort of lockdown, but only for a short period of time. So this will depend on the situation in Germany and in the EU, whether there will be support for buying new cars and this sort of things. But at least we can see this is coming back. So I hope the rebound will be very strong. And one thing I've learned so far for those 2-3 months is that the expectations in this situation are exaggerated in a way. So when I think about myself, what I was thinking like 2 months ago, I wouldn't even imagine that at the beginning of the June it will be sort of normal and we will open the borders and maybe we will travel to Austria and Czech Republic, no problem, and that sort of things. So I hope that with other things, with other predictions, we are probably exaggerating the situation, and I hope it will get better than we think right now.
Slovakia and the Slovakian government stood out because they, as you said before, very early on reacted quite heavily. I think 10 days after the first case was reported, the full country went into lockdown, and your president, Zuzana Čaputová, also stood out amongst leaders because very early on she started wearing masks. Do you think that, looking at the political side of the government, they did a good job in handling this crisis, or do you think that a lot of this was for showmanship and maybe under the roof and behind the scenes it wasn't as good as it looks now?
I mean, from the healthcare point of view, we did a really good job. And you can see the numbers. And I believe that the lockdown was a good thing to do. I believe that the face mask was a good thing to do at that time. Even all those politicians doing this, I mean, sort of example how to do it, was a good way to do it. And when we are talking about the support of the economy, that's a completely different story. But you must take into account that we got the change of the government in the middle of the crisis. So this is completely different situation. So the old government went away, the new one came, and it always will take, I mean, it always take like 100 days for a new government to really learn things and so on. They didn't have those 100 days. So there were many, I would say, mistakes from the new government in supporting the business. It was too slow and not enough money for supporting those shops and offices and everything that were closed. And I believe that they can still make it, I mean, in the next months and so on. But I think if there was not a change of the government, probably even on the side of the supporting of the economy, it would be better. But yes, there were some really slow supporting mechanism for the businesses in the first 2 months. And the best one was probably that people were able not to repay their debts, their mortgages and this sort of things. And this only thing that was agreed by all the banks kept around 100 million euros per month in the economy. This was very important, and this is probably the best thing that happened in the last three months. So keeping the money in the economy, the people were able not to repay their debts, their mortgages, and so it was really not a stressful situation on this side.
How are when we talk about economic aid and rescue packages and stuff like that, how are the entrepreneurs you're talking to or you're meeting or you're hearing about, are they feeling left alone by the government, or are they used to this anyways? What's their mood at the moment?
Well, at the very beginning, they were expecting a support because it was lockdown on a day like you are not prepared for it, so they were expecting to get money. I mean, then they realized it will be difficult through all the paperwork and everything, and then they realized once they didn't get the money or they just get a small amount of it, that, well, in the end it's up to you. So the businesses basically say, okay, we need to deal with the crisis, and hopefully in the next month or another next month, we will get some sort of support. So right now, I believe that they still expect some sort of support, but they do understand that it will be mostly up to them to get through the whole thing and to help themselves as much as they can.
You mentioned before, and I think it's an interesting aspect when we talk about Eastern European countries in lockdown, that this reminded you of the past, this being locked in. Do you think that the lockdown in Slovakia and also maybe the Czech Republic was easier for people because they were kind of used to this restriction in their movement, or was it more difficult, or was it easier because they are more disciplined, because they had to be? Do you think that makes a difference compared to Western European countries?
Well, I think one of the reasons why we were maybe more disciplined was that we are not so sure about our healthcare system. That's probably the biggest difference between the west part and the east part of the EU. And so we said, okay, probably if we would go to that sort of healthcare crisis as the Italians went into, that would be a complete disaster for the country. So that, I believe, was the most important thing at the very beginning for the people. They said, okay, we need to, be disciplined, stay at home, because nobody really knows whether the healthcare system can handle these sort of things. And it's not that I don't believe it's an issue of the past. It's almost like 2 generations and so on. And it was more the question of this special thing. And that's why the people stayed. And one thing I wanted to say about the businesses, the first signals we got from this new normal is actually very positive. I just spoke to a guy yesterday and he told me we were expecting to have the sales at like 30, 40% of the thing we got last year. And they are over 50, like 70%, 80%. So the people are really spending and getting to the normal in a more speedy way than we were expecting. So that's good news. That's very positive, actually.
How is coming to the media industry and Forbes in Slovakia? How is this new normal, and how was the crisis time for you as a company that's part of the media industry and also part of the media industry in general in Slovakia? Was it a lot of losses in ad revenue? Did you see digital access and traffic explode as in other countries, or was it a bit different?
I believe that the traffic for the online websites skyrocketed everywhere. In the first 2 months, the March and the April, the numbers were over the roof with everybody, because people really wanted to know what's happening in the country, what's going to change everywhere. And then in May, we can see in all the countries and here in Slovakia as well that the interest of the people is going down, and they don't want to listen about coronavirus anymore. They want some new things. I know the summer is coming. They want to really know what will be the next thing. And what we did is actually we started focusing more on restart of the business and the mindset of the businessman. How can we get out of this? And we can see that people are interested in this. So we call it Forbes Restart. And restart the business, restart the society, restart the economy, everything, and stop thinking in a COVID crisis, pandemia way, and think about how to get out of this. Concerning the ad revenues, I must say that we are sort of surprised. The numbers are very good for this period for us. But nobody really knows how the business will look in the second half of the year. So everybody is very cautious. And the third thing is, of course, the sales of the print everywhere for the first 2 months just went down because the people were sitting at home and they were consuming the online content. But we hope and we believe that May and June will get back to the normal, and definitely it helped us that we have this strong base of the subscription, of course. So we are not so much into this sales on the newsstands compared to the dailies and compared to the weeklies. Of course, that's a big issue because people were not in the shopping malls, they were not buying. So yes, that was an issue in 10s, 20s. I mean, 20% down in the sales in some of the printed media companies.
When we talk about a restart, this new normal that everyone is talking about now, what do you think, looking at the Slovakian economy and Slovakian entrepreneurs, but also wider European or global, what do you think will have changed after these 3 months that we've now experienced? What do you think that in the long term also will be different about the business world, about the entrepreneurial projects we see? What are your ideas about that?
There is this saying that who was the biggest agent behind your digital transformation in the company, whether it was CEO, CIO, or COVID. And the point is that COVID, of course, right now is making the digital transformation happen in all the companies. You can see it everywhere. I mean, what I believe will stay is this connection between online and offline. You can see it like businesses that used to be 100% offline got a new e-shop in like 2 weeks just to sell their sort of whatever it is, services, products everywhere. So I believe that this will stay, whether it's food or alcohol, whatever it is, even our services, the books, everybody who is selling something is creating his own e-shop. So this is one thing that will stay. The second one we can see is the change of the work space culture, I must say. I believe that the home office or work from home will stay with us forever in a certain way. And this will change many things. I mean, transportation, the prices of the commercial real estate, everything. I mean, the services you are offering, internet, I don't know. So this is another thing. And the third one that's kind of interesting is the big companies trying to help the smaller ones. Because the big one, they had bigger reserves. I mean, they got cash. So they were able, to support the smaller ones in their chain in a way. And I can see it in different things, whether they are banks or there are big e-shops or anybody. So we can see this sort of community getting closer to each other and supporting each other. And maybe for EU, that will be a big issue, whether we will buy more local stuff. That's another thing. To support like the economy, like buying Slovak, buying Austrian, staying at home during summer, not traveling to seaside, but going to the mountains. I believe this will be a big issue.
Well, thank you so much for the time. I hope you still travel to Vienna, because I would love to, when you're back, catch up and go for dinner or beer or whatever. Thanks for taking the time and giving our viewers input into what's going on in Bratislava and Slovakia. Thank you, everyone who's watching this. If you don't want to miss any of our videos, click the subscribe button that's somewhere here, so you get every video delivered to your inbox or to your YouTube channel. We are back next week with Global Insights with another one of our colleagues from around the world. Juraj, thanks so much. Děkujem. And have a good time and good luck for the future.
Nächstes Mal auf Deutsch.
Wir können auch gerne Deutsch.
Ciao.
Ciao.